What's up? We're gonna do a thing again. I'm gonna have a brew. And I'm gonna give you a quick review on a piece of gear, which today is my 10th anniversary S2 Custom 24 from PRS Guitars. Disclosures. PRS doesn't know who the fuck I am. They don't care who I am. The retailer that I bought the guitar from, Zounds, they don't know who the hell I am, except for I bought a guitar from them. So, totally unsponsored, except for by my own bank account and my wallet. So, S2 10th anniversary Custom 24, what is it? So the S2 line, PRS introduced them in 2013. 2023 was the 10th anniversary. This is a 2023 serial number, as you can see there. So that was the 10th anniversary, and what they did is they made some little changes to the 10th anniversary edition of the Custom 24 and the 594 McCarty, just to kind of commemorate that, and they were a limited number of models of each. I don't recall the number of models for each. In any event, the S2 is an American-made guitar. It's made in the Maryland PRS factory, alongside the core guitars and the Silver Skies and the CEs. So it's an American guitar, where the S2 saves a little bit of money, which is what the S2 is designed to do. It's to be a more affordable American PRS. Where they save money is they have a less detailed top carve, as you can see there. And let me grab a core for you real quick. So here's my core Custom 24 35th anniversary, and you can see the difference in the top carve profile there. It's just a more detailed carve. You can see that little ridge going around the edge of the body top there. So the core has a more detailed top carve. The cores typically also have different electronics. We'll get to that a little bit. And the hardware on the cores is different than the S2s, and we're going to talk about that. But that's kind of the differences in a nutshell. Alright, so the S2 Custom 24 10th anniversary. It's got a mahogany body, one-piece mahogany body. It does have a multi-piece mahogany neck that is glued in. The neck's got the heel right here. That's separate from the length of the neck, and the headstock is scarf jointed on. So that's your basically three-piece mahogany neck. You have a rosewood fretboard, mahogany body, and a carved flame maple top, but it's not as figured as the core, as you just saw. That's one of the other ways that they change spec to kind of make it a little bit less expensive. They use their less figured pieces of maple for S2. So hardware wise, let's get into where they're different. So on the S2, the hardware, you have a tremolo bridge. It's the PRS proprietary tremolo, but it's molded as opposed to being machined. You have steel saddles instead of brass, and you have a steel block instead of a brass block. So there's hardware difference number one. Hardware difference number two is your tuners. Yes, they are still locking tuners. They still have brass posts, but they are closed back, and they're mounted differently. They're a little bit probably less expensive to make, but they work really well. Um, that's your hardware differences with S2. The other difference with S2 versus core is the electronics. So your typical S2 guitar will have the same exact electronics as an SE. So an SE Custom 24 is going to have the 8515S humbucking pickups. It'll have Korean Alpha volume and tone pots with a push-pull on the tone and a 3-way blade selector. That's what the S2s generally have also. 10th anniversary S2 Custom 24 closes your gap electronics-wise with the core by a lot. It uses the same American pots that I don't know if they're American, but it uses the same pots for volume and tone as the core guitar. Instead of a 3-way blade switch, it uses a 5-way. There's no push-pull on the tone pot, so it's a 5-way. It's the exact same controls there as the American guitars in the core line, and the pickups are the American core pickups. So you have 8515 TCI in the S2 10th anniversary. They sound excellent. I mean, the guitar overall is excellent. The other spec-wise, I didn't touch on the neck, other than what it's made of. The carve is a pattern thin, so wide thin, which is from low E to high E, a little tiny bit wider than my core Custom 24, which has a pattern regular neck. And then from front to back, the depth of the neck, it's a little bit thinner than my core with the pattern regular. My other core guitars, my two 22 fret core guitars, the CE 22 and Custom 22, both have a wide fat neck. So like bass to treble side of the neck, this is very similar to those. And then the depth, it's a little shallower than those are. So it's kind of in between my core Custom 24 and my core Custom 22 neck-wise. It feels great. Tone-wise, this guitar fucking rocks. So here it is on the bridge pickup, clean sound with a little chorus. I'm going through my Helix. The amp model that I'm using is the 2203 JCM 800 from firmware 3.7. The cabs that I'm using are a pair. One is a Brit 412 Vintage 30. One's a Brit 412 Greenback 30. And again, just a little bit of chorus on the clean side here, so here's what you get. That's the bridge. Here's the second position. Third position. Position. And the neck pickup. Dirty. These sound really fantastic. So here's the bridge pickup by itself. Dirty. go to the second position, do the exact same thing. Go to the middle position. Fourth position. And the neck pickup. So it's got lots of great tone to it. Playability has been outstanding right out of the box. This is tuned down a whole step. So this is in D standard tuning, and I did change strings to do that. So instead of the factory 10 to 46, I have 10 to 52s on here. But let's talk a little bit about setup. So right out of the box, setup was great. It came shipped to me maybe a half step, a little better than a half step flat, tuned right up. It was fine. Sounded awesome. Played really, really well. The neck is very smooth. The edges of the fretboard, the fret edges are so perfect on the treble side and on the bass side. The fret edges are perfect, smooth. They're nicely finished. The front of the frets, there's no rough spots, there's no dead spots on the fretboard. Great. The neck relief came perfect. As near flat as you can get without having buzz. So really well set up there. And then the edge of the fretboard, I think this is something that people overlook with guitars a lot, but the edge of the fretboard is like it's rolled and radiused. It feels played in, and it feels really good. Great guitar right out of the box. Is it expensive? Yes. Is it core PRS expensive? No. Is it worth the cost? My opinion, yes. For $2,200, it's really hard to get a guitar that is better than an S2, well, than this version of the S2. If you were to get a standard S2 line PRS, you're going to pay about $1,800. So is it worth, to me, is it worth the couple $100 over the standard S2? Yes. And is it worth the cost. Just in general, to me, yes. Even the regular standard S2 line, I would say, is worth their price of admission. Standard S2 PRS is right on the same price point, is or with maybe a couple $100 more, maybe about $200 more than a Fender American Professional Stratocaster, Telecaster. I think those go for about $1,700. The PRSs are a little tiny bit more, but they're right there in the wheelhouse. And at that point, when you're spending that kind of money, a couple of $100 isn't going to make or break you. I would say if you're wanting a humbucker guitar, go with the PRS. If you're wanting a single coil Strat sound or a Tele sound, get the Fender. But for me, the 10th anniversary S2 even is a little bit more than the regular S2s. It's worth that extra couple $100 over the regular S2s because you're getting the core pickups and electronics. And one thing I'll say, having owned S2 guitars in the past, I previously had an S2 single cut semi-hollow, an S2 custom 22 semi-hollow, and an S2 594 McCarty single cut. The weak point on the rest of the S2 guitars, on the non-10th anniversary ones, the weak point is the electronics, not the pickups, but the pots themselves. When they get to you, they can be a little bit scratchy, or they're not quite as responsive as the core PRS electronics as far as the pots go. So that's a weak point on them. And on all of the S2s that I've had in the past, I've upgraded the pots. The pickups, not necessarily, but the pots, yes. All three, I replaced the pots with core pots. On the S2 semi-hollow custom 22, I did switch the pickups to a set of bare knuckle pickups because I wanted lower output pickups in that guitar, with it being a semi-hollow. The S2 single cut semi-hollow, I left the pickups because they weren't super, super hot the way that the S2 custom 22 pickups were. And then the S2 McCarty, I left alone, except for the pots. But changing the pots, they are smoother, they're less scratchy, and they're just better. But right there, that's, you're spending, $100, $120, maybe $200 if you have to pay somebody to do the pots for you. You're spending money. All right. And this is taking that upgrade aspect away and giving you better pickups. So yes, 10th anniversary S2, I would say, is worth it. The quality control on this guitar is every bit as good as the core PRSs that I've got. And we'll take a little stroll over here, and you can see there's my custom 24, my 22, and my CE. But there's 3 other core PRSs in there and an SE PRS. And quality control and setup from the factory, this is every bit they're equal. Every step of the way. So I can honestly say, yeah, if you're to buy one of these, it's going to be money well spent. The only thing that, that I could say would be a negative for anybody is maybe if this guitar doesn't give you the sounds that are for your ear. But for me, for my ear, this guitar works. I love it. It sounds great. It plays great. Right out of the box, it was set up well. I didn't have to you know, file any fret ends down. I didn't have to roll fingerboard anything. So yeah, very highly recommend the 10th anniversary S2 Custom. And even though I don't have one here, I would very highly recommend the S2 594 10th anniversary. And actually, probably a little bit more than this guy, because the S2 10th anniversary 594 has the exact same hardware as the core guitars. So really the only difference with those is the 3-piece neck, different body carve. Other than that, it's a core guitar. So hope this helped you out. Thanks for checking in while I have a brew and give you a little review, even though it's a little bit on the long side. Catch you later.